My name is Cliff Searcy, and I live in Missouri with my wife, Anita. I just recently became involved in missions in the Amazon rainforest in the country of Ecuador in South America at the age of 67 years old, and there are missionary families that were stationed in Ecuador and whose lives had all intersected and intertwined, and now these families have all intersected with my life. They are the Borman family, Bubs and Roberta Borman, and their son Randy Borman, and the McGuire family, Byron and Yvonne McGuire and their son Duvon McGuire. In 1954, missionary pilot Bubs Borman and his wife Roberta were assigned to minister to the area of the Wadoni tribe in Ecuador. The next year, in 1955, the Bormans were reassigned to minister instead to the Kofan Indians deep in the Amazon jungle and rainforest. Later in 1956, Bubs and Roberta Borman, now in the Kofan Indian village of Dureno, deep in the Amazon jungle in Ecuador, they had a baby boy named Randy Borman. And this year of 2018, now 62-year-old Randy and his wife Amelia are playing an important role in my life in the village of Zavalo. In addition, the McGuire missionary family was also stationed in Ecuador. Veteran missionaries Byron and Yvonne McGuire served for years in Quito with massive shortwave radio station HCJB, the Voice of the Andes. This station was founded in 1931 and was the first radio station in Ecuador to offer regular daily program, as well as being the first ever Christian radio station in the whole world. Both Randy Borman and Duvon McGuire, the Bormans, the McGuires' young sons, all attended the same schools at one time many years ago in Quito. So Randy and Duvon ran in the same circles back then. Later, Duvon McGuire almost died when he contracted Giardia, which is a very serious intestinal infection caused by a microscopic parasite that is found worldwide, especially in areas with poor sanitation and unsafe water. This led Duvon McGuire to study parasitology and graduate with a degree from Asbury College in pre-med and in chemistry. Before his senior year at college, he spent the summer working in hospitals in India, and there he witnessed the devastating effects of poor sanitation and pathogen-infested water and saw firsthand the health perils and deaths that accompany contaminated water. So, in 1992, Duvon began designing a water purifier for orphans who suffered from unsafe drinking water. After years of research and experimentation, he invented an affordable, lightweight, portable water purifier that could disinfect large quantities of water efficiently and quickly for entire communities, and he received a patent for this invention. So, since 1998, over 3,900 of these water purification systems have been installed in 83 countries, and they're being used worldwide by such organizations as Franklin Graham Samaritan's Purse, among others. This very invention, the McGuire Water Purification System, is the very water system that we are installing in the Kofan Indian village of Zavalo, very deep in the Amazon jungle, where now 62-year-old Randy Borman and his Kofan wife Amelia are the missionaries overseeing that village and the whole Kofan tribe. Ecuadorian-born Randy, the son of American missionary parents, has been elected the tribal chief of the Kofan Indians and, as a result, oversees multiple Kofan villages in addition to Zavalo. He has helped the Kofan people regain over 300,000 acres of land that they had improperly lost many years ago, and Randy has long been a hero to the Kofan people. Now, the Couriers, one of gospel music's most successful and best-loved singing groups, sang from their founding in 1955 to their official retirement 5 years ago in December of 2013, after 58 years of ministry. Pictured here is my wife Anita and me with the three Couriers, left to right, Neil Enlow, Dave Colonin, and Dwayne Nicholson, on that December night of their full-time retirement 5 years ago. In February of 2018, Courier Dave Colonin, who has ministered in 60 countries, learned of the crucial and extreme need of safe drinking water for Randy Borman's village of Zavalo, Ecuador. He told me of this and of his plans to find a way to bring a solution to their very real problem, and he invited me to join him in this great adventure. And I quickly responded that I would. and arrangements were made with Duvon's company, New Life International, for Dave and I and two others, Mike Eisenhower and Ken Gatton, to spend 3 days at their headquarters in Indiana this past August to all be trained on the assembly, installation, maintenance, and operation of this water system. Here are the four of us with our instructor, Steve Udy, who is in the center. There at the training center, we learned that over 80% of the disease in developing countries was related to poor drinking water and related poor sanitation. We also learned that 88% of the deaths due to diarrheal diseases that are caused by bad water, hygiene, and sanitation issues are children under 5 years old in developing countries, and far less than 0.5% of all the water in the whole world is safe to drink. Now, we here in the United States are told to drink 6 to 8 glasses of water daily, but people in developing countries with unsafe water often drink as little as 2 ounces of water each day because the water makes them sick. And this little intake of water leads to them suffering from dehydration, especially in the tropics where the temperatures are high and severe. But the only natural cure for dehydration is drinking more of the water that makes them sick, so no one can understand the dilemma that these people in these countries face. Now, we found it interesting that although Zavalo missionary Randy Borman and machine inventor Duvon McGuire were both at the same schools in younger years and ran in the same social circles, Randy was totally unaware of Duvon's invention or how it could be a solution to his village's needs until he learned this information from us. So God really used courier Dave Colonen in once more linking together the work of the Borman and the McGuire missionary families. Dave Colonen is clearly the hero of our story and of this adventure. It was his vision and sensitivity to the leading of the Holy Spirit that caused him to organize a group of 18 people, including he and myself, to go to Zavalo next February to install this equipment. But missionary Randy Borman felt strongly that several of us needed to come on ahead several months earlier than February to see the situation for ourselves so that we could better assess what needed to be done and would be able to better conduct the preparation and research for the February project. Though we can bring the water purification system on the plane with us, we cannot bring other needed equipment on the plane, such as solar panels, big battery systems, large water tanks, and 3 miles of pipe. The 3 miles of 3/4-inch pipe that we have to supply for this project will come on more than 30 large spools. We certainly cannot bring that with us on the airplane. So much of the materials will have to be purchased and secured in the Ecuador capital city of Quito and then transported a full 10 hours, 12 hours with stops, to the village of Zavalo by truck and by canoe, as you will see. So Dave Colonen of the Couriers, Pastor Mike Hammer of Celebration Community Church of Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, electrician Mike Eisenhower, and I traveled to Ecuador in late October on an advance trip to gather this information and to determine how to tie the new equipment and needed supplies into the existing infrastructure of the village. The four of us met at the Atlanta airport and flew together to the international airport in Quito, arriving late on a Monday night. Missionary Randy Borman met us, and he and one of his sons, Federico, transported us to a hotel in the nearby town of Hualabamba, where the four of us spent the night at the hotel named Hostel La Cocina Tipica. The accommodations were great, and we had an early breakfast the next morning, Tuesday morning, at the hotel's excellent restaurant. We spent that first whole day, Tuesday, in the capital city of Quito to visit equipment supply houses, pricing things like pipe, large batteries, and other supplies, and learning of their availability. We visited this very large hardware store, building supply house, and we were surprised to learn that they carried many familiar name brands of tools and supplies with many prices that were actually lower than here in the States, and without having to pay sales tax either. We also were surprised to learn that Ecuador uses American dollars as their main currency at its full U.S. value. This will simplify and facilitate the purchasing of much of the necessary equipment. After a second night of good rest at the hotel in Hualabamba, we all headed out early the next morning, Wednesday morning, in a truck headed east across the Andes Mountains, and for the end of that road, some 7 hours away, 9 hours with stops, in Centro Union. The last actual city we passed through on our journey to the end of the road from Quito was Lago Agrio. On this map, you can see the city of Lago Agrio to the left of this wildlife reserve area, which is shown in pink. And the road is not even shown on this map going to or leaving the city. We left Lago Agrio on a paved road and eventually wound up on a dirt road and traveled about an additional hour on it until we reached Central Union, adjacent to the Agua Rico River. You can see the village of Zavolo to the right of this map. The only access to the village of Zavolo was by this 3-hour canoe ride on the Agua Rico River. We arrived at this little store next to the Agua Rico riverbank at Central Union and had to park and unload the truck. Then we loaded our luggage into the huge canoe with a big outboard motor that would take us the remaining 3 hours of our journey to Zavolo at a high rate of speed. A young man named Stalin was our boat driver, and we took off for our remaining 3-hour journey by canoe to Zavolo. As you can see, we traveled for those 3 hours at a relatively high rate of speed in this large canoe to reach the village of Zavolo. Our total time was 12 hours with stops. That's 9 hours by truck and 3 hours by canoe. When we arrived at the riverbank in Zavolo, we had a half-a-mile walk up the hill from the riverbank into the village itself. Villagers came down to the riverbank with an all-terrain off-the-road vehicle and with wheelbarrows to help transport some of our luggage up to the cabins in the village where we would stay. We made our way down the path from the visitor center area toward the village, which was about a mile or so away, and along the way we saw some chickens, ducks, and other farm animals. These were some of the villagers' houses that we passed as we made our way down the 1-mile path to the center of the village. The 2-room school has 2 beautiful classrooms, as you can see. You'll notice that many of these buildings are on stilts or somehow elevated because at times the water gets very, very high when they flood. This young man in the black shirt is Toribio. He is the teacher for the children at the school, and he is a dedicated Christian. He not only teaches the children their lessons, but he also teaches them about Jesus and imparts Christian values to them. He is a real blessing. Here is Toribio standing in front of the school. The children were at play during recess. Notice that they are dressed in simple uniforms, just with some type of white tops and blue bottoms. As you can see, they play just like any other children would in any other city in America. We fell in love with these children. The girls often get married at 12 or 13 years old, while the boys get married around 15 years old. So young adults will have a rather large family by early in their 20s, and the village is growing rather rapidly as a result. Now this intensifies the need to bring them fresh and clean water to their village. There is a concrete roof-covered pavilion that the government built for the village. The children play basketball and soccer here. Some may wonder why they play these sports on a concrete surface, but starting in April in the rainy season, this area is totally covered with about 5 to 6 feet of water. So the concrete preserves the flat level surface. Dave Kolonen was a real big hit with the villagers, especially with the children. Dave brought a big bag of lollipops with him, and the children loved getting them during the days that we were there. We all loved spoiling them. Dave and Mike Hammer played soccer with some of the children. The children loved that we visitors took an interest in them and treated them as importantly as they really are. The dogs were noticeably very tame and were very comfortable being around us. They especially liked Dave. Can you guess why? One of the villagers had a pet monkey, and Dave, being an equal opportunity spoiler of animals as well as children, felt it was only right to give the monkey a lollipop too. If you look real close, you can see the lollipop stick still sticking out of the monkey's mouth. We had a meeting with the town council leaders. Through Randy, our plan to bring them clean and fresh water from a distant stream was explained to them, along with the information about the water purification system. The man on the far right in the blue shirt is the town council president, while the other 2 young men in the red and brown shirts are the main members of the council. The villagers' responsibility to perform the work necessary to purify the water with the water purifying equipment was explained to them, and they approved of it. The village will likely hire several of their residents to perform this regular task, and we will train them on the proper operation and maintenance of the equipment next February when the new system is put in place and into operation. Our next step was to bring this to the whole town council itself and to some of the other interested residents, which we did the day after meeting with the town council leaders. We all met in the concrete roof-covered pavilion that you earlier saw the children playing soccer in. Each of these nights, Dave and Mike Hammer and I sang, while the pastor's family, with 6 of his 9 children, also sang both nights. And now I am no longer the same. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole.
Oh.
Hey, that's great. Wow. That's great.
Beautiful.
And then Dave preached the first night. Mike Hammer preached the second night.
And what it's all about, you have to go to the Bible.
So God allowed the Israelites to be overpowered by the Midianites. And this enemy, they were mean.
They had for years a 28,000 kilowatt generator that supplied more than adequate electricity for the needs of the village. When it broke beyond repair, the 28,000 kilowatt generator used 2 gallons of diesel an hour to run, while the new generator uses 5 gallons of diesel an hour to run. So the cost of running the generator for just 5 hours a day has risen from $20 a day to now $50 a day for the new generator. We spent much of our time focusing on the real task before us. Our project is to bring a year-round supply of clean and safe drinking water to this village to improve the life of its residents. They now have a water system, but it is very broken. Years ago, their government provided this elevated 10,000-gallon water tank and tower that is suspended high above the village. This stream is located 1 mile away from the village down a path through the jungle that has been cleared. We walked a mile from the village down to this stream to learn about their present water source. It is as bad as it looks, probably even worse. It is as dirty as it looks. It is filled with parasites, E. coli, fecal matter, and other animal and human contamination, among other contaminants. And as bad as that sounds, it is bone dry for at least 8 to 10 weeks each year when the rain is scarce, leaving the villagers with no water supply. Then they use water they have collected in their rain barrels for drinking and cleansing needs instead. But since the rain is scarce, which causes the stream to dry up, the water in the rain barrels has often been there for some time already, allowing the contaminants and parasite organisms to multiply even more. It made our hearts sick to see this. The 4 of us on our team ourselves bore the complete cost with our own personal funds of having bottled water to drink the whole time we were in the village, but funds do not exist for the 200 villagers to also enjoy this luxury. This is how their present water system functions. Years ago, the government placed a dam before this stream to direct the water to this site. Then they provided a diesel-powered electric generator at this site that would operate a pump from this site that would pump the water 1 mile to the village through 1 mile of pipe that they also provided. The water is then pumped into an underground reservoir near the base of the water tower. Then an electric pump that's located within the reservoir is used to pump the water from the underground reservoir up to the water tower. That pump is powered by the electricity generated by the 100,000 kilowatt village electric generator when diesel fuel is available. Water from that 10,000 gallon elevated water tower is then piped to the villagers' houses, where it is used for their showers, toilets, and also for drinking. But the system is not adequate for their needs as it should be for several reasons. First of all, the water from this stream is not safe to drink. Secondly, this stream is bone dry for 8 to 10 weeks a year, so there is no water supply during this time. Third, the diesel generator that powers the pump at the site of the stream is old and worn out and often breaks down, and so it often requires repair and parts. And to obtain those parts, it requires a 10-hour round trip by canoe and truck to the nearest city of Lago Agrio. If the parts are not available then, securing them would require a 20-hour plus round trip by canoe and truck to Quito to obtain them. As a result, when the diesel pump system breaks down, as it often does, it can be out of commission for quite a while. For instance, when we were there in Zavolo during 5 days, the diesel generator at that stream site was broken down the whole time, and the village was without their water supply that whole time we were there. The villagers had to depend upon whatever water they had captured in their rain barrels for water for drinking and for all other purposes. As previously explained, diesel fuel is relatively expensive and not easy to keep in supply. Though the village must give first priority of the fuel to providing water to the village, electricity still must be provided to operate the electrical pump that moves that water from the underground reservoir up to the water tank to make it accessible to the people. So water reaching the people is dependent on diesel fuel being in proper supply, both at the site of the present stream and for the operation of the generator that applies electricity to the village. There are some filters that are presently being used to provide some filtering of the water that the villagers drink from this present stream, but those filters, basically, they just remove larger obstacles in the water, and they don't make the water safe to drink. And remember, this system is bone dry 8 to 10 weeks each year, so this in itself makes the present water system inadequate to properly address the complete water needs of the community. Now here is the solution that God will help us to bring to this water problem. Now look to the left of this dirty stream that the villagers presently get their water from. There's a very thick jungle brush and forest. See it there? 2 miles through this jungle and up a high hill is the stream where this dark colored stream actually gets its water from. That stream is very clean compared to this one, and it runs 365 days a year, unlike this dark stream that's dry 8 to 10 weeks a year. We are raising the funds to hire some Ecuador workers to clear a 4 to 5 foot wide path through this jungle brush for 2 miles all the way up to the hill to that stream before we return in February. As far as we can determine, that stream is higher in elevation than the height of the water tank in the village, so the pipe collecting water from that stream should flow downhill down that jungle path and all the 3 miles to the village and flow right up to that elevated water tank, since water flows and rises to its own level. Now we are raising the funds to buy 3 miles of 3/4 inch pipe, which we and the villagers will lay out on that jungle trail from the village to the elevated clean stream. That pipe will come on more than 30 large spools, and it will take many trips by truck and canoe to get all of that to the village. And along that 3-mile trail will be 4 65-gallon water tanks spaced at intervals to collect the water and then give it an additional push downhill from the accumulated weight of that water that collects in the tanks. That'll help the water get moving along a little better with a little bit of a push. And then non-electrical mechanical ram pumps that work on mechanical pressure will also be used along the route as needed to push the water along at a steady and substantial pace. That way we can ensure that the water will get there by using some of these mechanical pumps. They don't use electricity, they just work by pressure. When the water reaches the elevated water tower, the present infrastructure will deliver that non-purified water to the villagers' houses for general cleaning, showers, and toilet use, as the present system does now when it's operational, but not for drinking purposes. But the big difference is going to be that will be 365 days a year and not just for a part of the year, because that stream that the water will come from will run all year long and not be dry for 8 to 10 weeks like the stream that they're getting the water from now. But a separate pipe from that elevated water tower will also deliver additional water by gravity to an also high elevated 500-gallon water tank that we're going to provide and install, that's going to be involved with a McGuire water purification system that will be housed in a secure building with that elevated 500-gallon tank and protected from the elements in that building. Now, the water purification system will be powered by a big 10-year life 12-volt battery system that we're going to provide. That battery system will be charged by the installation of solar panels, which we will also provide along with the accompanying charge converter equipment to keep that charged. Now, villagers will be trained to purify the water that's held in that 500-gallon tank. After that 500 gallons of water is purified, that water will be moved outdoors, again by gravity, by pipe, to 2 more elevated 500-gallon water tanks that we will provide. So there will be an outdoors availability of up to 1,000 gallons of clean and safe drinking water for the current 200 residents of the village, and also for the residents of the nearby houses off of the riverbank. So they can come in and they can obtain it from that spigot on those water tanks so they can fill their containers just like the folks in the village and bring that clean water back to their houses. This 1,000-gallon capacity of clean and fresh water and safe water will allow for future growth of the village population in years to come. This new system will give the villagers sufficient water for showers, toilets, general cleaning, and safe drinking water for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it doesn't need electricity or expensive diesel fuel in order to operate, as the water will be delivered to the village by gravity, by non-electrical mechanical pumps, and the water purification system will operate off a battery system that's charged by solar power. Then gravity will make both the safe drinking water and the water used for other purposes available to all from the elevated water tanks, eliminating the need for costly diesel fuel that the village can't afford to operate the pumps and the danger that there might not be any water available because they may have run out of diesel fuel. Now, we thank God for helping us formulate this action plan and for those who are helping us accomplish this task through their prayerful and through their financial support. None of us could get that filthy stream out of our minds, even many weeks after returning back here in the States. We are very eager to return in February, bringing 18 younger workers with us and asking God to be a blessing to those dear folks in a spiritual way that will change their eternity as well as change their physical condition. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and for praying with us, and may God bless you.